All right, so are you ready to dive into another book?
Always. What do we have today?
Today we are looking at Fires of Heaven.
Fires of Heaven. Okay.
That is book 5 of the Wheel of Time.
Of the Wheel of Time, yes.
And we are doing a deep dive
Deep dive, love it.
into some excerpts from this book.
Excellent. By book 5, there's a lot going on, so we're in for a treat.
Yeah, and a lot of the stuff that happens in this book is like really important to the overall series.
Oh, absolutely. Pivotal, you might say.
Yeah. So, where do we even begin with this one?
Well, we could start with Eleda. Remember her?
Eleda, the Amerlin seat?
The very one. She's ascended to the Emerlin seat, but she's not exactly feeling powerful, despite being, well, in charge of the Aes Sedai.
Interesting. It's like that saying, heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Right. Exactly. And in Alaida's case, she's dealing with being sidelined in major decisions, like the whole Saldean army situation. Plus, there are those whispers about an Aes Sedai maybe being involved in the Panarch's disappearance.
Ooh, that's juicy. So we've got political intrigue from the get-go.
Always a good sign in the Wheel of Time.
It makes you think, who really holds the power? Is it the one with the title or someone else entirely?
It's a question that permeates the series, that's for sure. And while Elite is busy with those political power struggles, we have a mysterious character drawn to the White Tower. This guy is on a mission to find the Horn of Valere and some dagger he believes was stolen.
Hold on. The Horn of Valere. Now, that's not something to just casually mention. For those of us who need a refresher, what's so special about this horn?
Well, legend says it can summon heroes from the past to fight in the last battle. We're talking ancient heroes, back from the dead, ready to fight the Dark One.
Oh, wow. Okay, so this isn't just some museum piece. This is a world-ending, or I guess world-saving kind of artifact.
Exactly. Whoever controls the horn has the potential to, well, tip the scales in the ultimate battle between good and evil.
Talk about high stakes.
Speaking of high stakes, let's talk about the Forsaken. They make their presence known in these excerpts, too.
The Forsaken, they're what, like the lieutenants to the Dark One?
You could say that. They're incredibly powerful channelers, each with their own nasty agenda. We get to eavesdrop on a conversation between Ravine and Lanfear, and let me tell you, their disdain for anyone weaker than them is palpable.
It's like they think they're better than everyone else because they can channel.
Exactly. They represent a different breed of power. And that hierarchy within those who can channel, it's a dangerous game they're playing.
And then there's Siwan Sunche, dethroned, on the run, but definitely not out of the game. She encounters Logan, and we know how significant men who can channel are in this world.
It's a volatile power, to say the least, often leading to madness. Logain represents both a danger and a possibility, someone to be wary of, but also perhaps a key to something larger.
And Siwan, she strikes me as someone who knows how to make the most of any situation, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. A shrewd player, Arsuan.
We've got Elida, who has the position but is struggling to wield actual power, and Siwan, who's been stripped of her title but is still a force to be reckoned with. What a fascinating dynamic.
It really highlights how power can be both claimed and earned, wouldn't you agree?
And it's not just these powerful women, right? I mean, we also get glimpses of Morghese in these excerpts, and she is not the same queen we knew before.
Oh, absolutely not. Morghese living incognito, but definitely embracing a whole new look.
Talk about a transformation.
It makes you wonder what she went through that made her completely change who she presented herself as.
Right, like what kind of experiences could push someone to reinvent themselves so dramatically?
It really speaks to the resilience of some of these characters, though, doesn't it?
It does. And speaking of resilience, we can't forget about the Ale. I mean, they're practically experts at survival.
The Ale, those desert-dwelling warriors. They are absolutely essential to the storyline, especially when you consider the prophecies surrounding the Dragon Reborn.
Because they believe the Dragon Reborn will be one of them.
Precisely. It adds a whole other layer of intrigue, especially when you consider how the Ale view the Wetlanders, as they call everyone else.
Right. Talk about a cultural clash waiting to happen. And speaking of the Dragon Reborn, we see Rand grappling with his destiny in these excerpts.
He is, isn't he? And surrounded by the Ale, who both revere and challenge him.
He's got a lot on his plate, the weight of the world, literally, and trying to understand his growing powers. Not to mention this Nato character.
Nato. Mysterious, isn't he?
To say the least. He's always just sort of there, watching Rand. What's your take on him? Friend, foe, or something else entirely?
Ah, that's the question, isn't it? And Jordan is a master at keeping us guessing.
He is. But speaking of mysteries, we've got Egwene and Nynaeve on their own journeys to mastering the One Power. It's fascinating to see their different approaches.
It is. Egwene with the wise ones, embracing the Aleways, and Nynaeve sticking with the traditional Aes Sedai teachings.
And both facing serious danger, especially in Tel'aran'rhiod.
Tel'aran'rhiod, the world of dreams. It's a dangerous place. Beautiful, but perilous.
And that encounter Nynaeve has with Mokhidian, one of the Forsaken, intense. It's like even in the world of dreams, there's no escaping the Dark One's reach.
No escaping at all. Which is a good reminder of what everyone's up against, right? The stakes are incredibly high.
So where do we go from here? With all these threads, all this tension, what should we pull on next?
Well, let's circle back to Sion Senche. Remember, she's not just wandering around aimlessly. She suspects a conspiracy within the White Tower.
Ooh, a conspiracy. Tell me more.
It's true. She believes there are those who orchestrated her downfall, and she's determined to expose them.
So even within the White Tower, there's mistrust and hidden agendas. It kind of makes you wonder, can anyone be trusted?
That's the question that hangs over everything, isn't it? And it's a good question to keep in mind as we talk about Matt Koth.
Oh, Matt, always trying to run away from destiny. How's he doing in these excerpts?
Still running, but he can't escape the consequences of his deal with the eelfin, now can he? He's got that powerful weapon and a connection to those creatures that he just can't shake.
See, this is what I mean about consequences. And it all circles back to that concept of ta'veren, doesn't it? Rand, Matt, Perrin, they're all influencing the pattern whether they want to or not.
Like it or not, they're shaping destiny itself.
And speaking of shaping destiny, things are really heating up with the Shadow Ale.
They are, aren't they? A major conflict is brewing.
What's interesting to me is that despite wanting nothing to do with any of this, Matt has a knack for strategy.
He does, doesn't he? Almost like it's in his blood, though he'd probably deny it.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the battle with the Shadow.
Because this isn't just a battle, is it? It's personal for Rand. It's about leadership, responsibility, and facing impossible choices.
And it highlights the brutal reality of this world. This isn't just some game. There are real consequences, real lives lost.
The death of that one character, it really underscores that point, doesn't it? War is never clean, no matter how just the cause. And just when you think things can't get any crazier, we're introduced to a whole new threat.
The Shan-Chan.
Yeah. Talk about shaking things up. They come sailing in with their own culture, their own magic system, and let's not forget the domain.
Oh, the domain. Enslaved channelers. Jordan really doesn't hold back, does he?
He does not. It really emphasizes how vast and dangerous this world is. And it's Elaine and Nynaeve who find themselves thrust right into the middle of it.
It's a real trial by fire for them, especially Elaine.
Because she's forced to be resourceful, to think on her feet. It shows a different side of her.
She's not just a princess anymore, is she?
Definitely not. It makes me think about the women in this series, like Mordazy, and how they each respond to challenges in their own way.
It's true. It's like Jordan is saying there's no one way to be a strong woman.
Absolutely. But speaking of strong women, we have to talk about Nynaeve's encounter with Morbrigadian.
In Tel'aran'rhiod.
Yeah. That scene was intense.
Mokhidian is terrifying. And what makes it worse is that she's just toying with Nynaeve, reveling in her fear.
It shows that the battles aren't just physical. There's a psychological element, too. A battle for the mind and spirit.
And no one understands that better than Rand.
Because he's grappling with his own power.
He's starting to realize what it means to fight the Dark One. The sacrifices he might have to make.
And the toll it could take on him. On his humanity.
Because how do you fight a monster without becoming a monster yourself?
That's the question, isn't it? And it's a question that stays with you long after you finish the book.
Jordan doesn't offer easy answers. He makes you think, makes you question.
And that's what makes The Wheel of Time so compelling. It's more than just a fantasy epic. It's about humanity, choice, and the struggle between good and evil.
Well said. And it's a struggle that plays out on both a grand scale and in the smallest of moments.
Which is a good reminder for us all, isn't it? To pay attention to those seemingly insignificant choices we make every day.
Because you never know, they might just be the ones that tip the scales.
Well, listeners, there you have it. Our deep dive into Fires of Heaven might be over for today, but the conversation certainly isn't. What did you find most surprising? What resonated with you? Keep the discussion going in the comments, and be sure to join us next time as we continue our journey through the world of The Wheel of Time.